What is up, everyone? It's Justin Parnell here, and today's deck tech is Grixis Planeswalkers in Gladiator. And if you want to learn more about Gladiator on Magic Arena, check out my Intro to Gladiator video. But before we start ticking up the loyalty counters, help the channel out by taking a second to like and subscribe to keep seeing this sweet, sweet content every week. And as Nicol Bolas himself would say, always remember to pay for Ristic Study. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's one of his voice lines on Arena. So I want to cover three things. What cards the deck wants, how does this deck want to win, and what cards are critical to the success of this deck. So then what exactly is in this deck? What categories of cards does this deck want? I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't cover the Planeswalkers first. That's why we're all here, right? The 10 Planeswalkers in this Grixis deck fall into two camps. Those that interact with the board actively, and those that interact with the board passively. Let's cover the latter first. The Planeswalkers that passively interact with the board are Sorin the Mirthless, Tasha, Unholy Archmage, Davriel Soulbroker, and Narset, Parter of Veils. None of these Planeswalkers can destroy or otherwise mess with your opponent's permanents, but obviously they cause trouble in other ways. Sorin can make tokens, Tasha and Davriel are a menace against opposing creatures who want to take out Planeswalkers. Narset makes other card-drawing decks miserable. The remaining Planeswalkers, Ashiok, Nightmare Muse, Chandra, Awakened Inferno, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter, and Professor Onyx can all deal with creatures, and some can deal with Planeswalkers as well. This is a situation where the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a Planeswalker is a good guy with a Planeswalker, and honestly, I'm not exactly sure which side of this analogy that we're on, but either way, we don't want anyone to have any Planeswalkers but us. This deck has buckets of targeted removal too. Bedevil, Electrolyze, Bloodchief's Thirst, Obliterating Bolt, and Molten Impact do double duty to take out creatures as well. Of course, we are playing a Grixis deck, so there's a few more bits of removal to go around, especially sweepers for creatures. With Anger of the Gods, Crux of Fate, Extinction Event, Meathook Massacre, and Bontu's Last Reckoning, that one is great to cast later in the game with a few of your Planeswalkers out, we aim to keep the battlefield cleared out. But we do have some creatures of our own that aren't game-ending threats, and they share a common theme: they all make tokens. All four of Third Path Iconoclast, Young Pyromancer, Sedgemoor Witch, and Poppet Stitcher all make tokens when you cast one of your 37 instants or sorceries in the deck. All but Poppet Stitcher help play defense for your Planeswalkers too. Our Planeswalkers aren't the only way for us to accrue card advantage though. We have a handful of high impact draw spells. The big ones are Memory Deluge, Discover the Formula, Mazemind Tome, Expressive Iteration, and Tainted Indulgence. And while we like to win with our Planeswalkers, sometimes we need some good old creature bashing to really get it done. Two gigantic life-linking threats in Phyrexian Fleshgorger and Wormcoil Engine pack a massive resilient punch. Shark Typhoon can be a huge surprise flyer or nightmarish token maker, and while Lear, Disciple of the Drowned, won't kill you himself, the drowning that he does will be on your opponent as you bury them in card advantage. And to round out the deck, we have some pretty sweet good stuff cards, which I believe you are contractually binded to include in any Grixis deck. We have Thoughtseize and its discard friends, Counterspell and its counter-spelling friends, Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, Search for Azcanta, and of course, the best card in the deck, Demonic Tutor. So it looks like we have a lot of ways to not lose the game, but how do we actually win the game? The first path to victory is always our deck's namesake, Planeswalkers. In most game states, these 7 Planeswalkers can ultimate and provide enough advantage to simply win you the game outright. Now, obviously you're looking for a little more analysis than that. This is a control deck at heart. So it's often about picking your spots, and being not dead for long enough to have a play where you turn a corner. This often means taking any play where you handle 2 of your opponent's cards for 1 of your own, whether that's a sweeper, allowing a double block, countering a large draw spell. Once you have more permanents and cards in hand than your opponent for 2 turns in a row, you've likely won the game, even if they don't realize it yet. This deck has a surprisingly high number of ways to gain some incidental life, so you really should use your life as a resource as much as you possibly can. Even if you don't have a card to gain it back immediately, you'll likely find one soon. Remember, you don't lose at 1 life. Lastly, there are 2 game-breaking combos that you can pull off, both involving Commit to Memory. The first is casting Memory when you have Narset in play. You draw 7, your opponent draws 1. The second is targeting Commit to Memory with Torrential Gearhulk and casting the Memory side at the end of your opponent's turn, and resolving an instant speed draw 7 right before you untap and take your turn. So what cards can you not do without when playing this deck? What are the must-craft cards with your wild cards? Well, the first thing that I want to start with is the mana base. I have 37 regular lands and 2 modal double face cards that I aggressively play face down as lands. Now, you want to have about half of those being able to make 2 or more colors of mana, which leaves the other half to be able to produce single colors of mana between basic lands and non-basic lands with special abilities. You don't necessarily have to have the rare-laden mana base that I do, but it does increase the speed of your deck quite a bit. Of course, Planeswalkers are the word of the day, and you don't have to have the exact same ones that I do in this deck, other than Narset, and we covered why a second ago, but you do want about 60% of those to be able to interact with permanents on the board, especially creatures and other Planeswalkers. And the ultimate key is you really want to hit your land drops. And I really mean that. The whole game, you want to hit your land drops. You don't want to mess around with any mana ramp. You ain't got time for that. You want to keep your curve lean and low to the ground to make sure you can play an important spell every turn of the game. And also, spend a Mythic Wild card on Demonic Tutor. You will be glad you did. Look, I'll be honest, Grixis Planeswalkers is my #1 favorite deck to play in Gladiator. So I really appreciate you making it all the way through the end of this video in particular, and hopefully you get a chance to play with Grixis Planeswalkers sometime soon in the future. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to follow me on social media. The links are right here. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you get all that sweet Gladiator content, Commander content coming to you every single week. And if you are interested in more Gladiator content, check out the playlist specifically for Gladiator. Thank you all so much. I'm Justin Parnell, and we'll see you next time. That ultimate joke was good. That was good. I'm gonna say that one more.